Guys, we are live on a Saturday morning, and today we are going to cover two main topics that we're actually going to add to this application. If you're looking for any of the links to any of the previous videos in this series, they're going to be in the video description below. And those two topics are, number one, we are going to add the feature into the application that will email customers the users coming in, making a request out of the system here. We're going to shoot them off an email. And then also what we're going to do is we're going to add to the home screen and sort of create a dashboard. So we're actually looking at the home screen right now. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a list of all the tickets that they've entered so far, and it will be the beginning of a dashboard. Okay. So, all right, so let's get going here. One more thing that I would mention is that we'll be having a Zoom call after this. Okay. And what that allows me to do is help you guys more. You guys are to be building the system out yourselves, and it's an opportunity for you guys to show off what you have so far. Perhaps your requirements differ a little bit. Okay, so it allows you to show off what you have, any new features that you have that perhaps none of us others have those features. Also, if you're having any problems, you're stuck, it gives me the opportunity to get you unstuck, make sure that you are making progress so you can keep up with everything here, okay? And then, all right, so let's get going here. All right, so in order to send emails, and by the way, that Zoom link will be posted in the Facebook group. And if you're not a part of the Facebook group, the Insiders group, if you do a search for Power Apps Insiders group on Facebook, you'll probably find it. But there is a little bit of a prerequisite. You need to fill out the student intake form, and all those links are in the video description below. Okay, I'm just trying to remember everything that I need to get out here. Okay, and there is just one more thing that I need to check just real quick. And we will start adding the email feature here just momentarily. Okay, and I just need to make sure this live stream is working. I'd hate to go into this live stream and realize that it's not streaming. Okay, so I will make sure that is, there we go. It looks like it started there. Very good. All right, so the first step that we need to do in order to send email, and there are several ways you can send email. There's an Office 365 or an Outlook 365. Let's go look for that. We'll go over to the data sources, and we'll go in here and we'll actually type Outlook, okay? And it looks like Office 365 Outlook is what we're looking for. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head, but that's what we want to use here. Now, if you don't have Office 365 or the, I don't know why you'd be using Power Apps if you don't have Office 365, but if you have an Outlook account, that's more of a personal account, you could tie into that with this Outlook connector down here, okay? And if I say outlook.com, it seems to be a little cut off there, but thought I'd show you that. So there are other ways. I think there's some type, if I say mail and I scroll down, there's a mail connector, there's MailChimp, there's all kinds of other things. What I use almost 100% of the time, every single app that I've written, I've always used this Outlook 365 Outlook, and it's always worked great. And there's another way you could do this. You could create a Power Automate flow. I don't understand why you would want to create a Power Automate flow that would send out emails. If you are, if you have a Power Apps here that could just send it off, I think it's much simpler, much easier. I'm trying to think of an example of a use case where you actually would want to use Power Automate flow instead of in Power Apps, and that would be if there's different ways that people are accessing the data. And one thing that I need to do is make the screen bigger so you guys can see it. Okay. And Gerald says, hello from Winnipeg, Canada. Good vibes. Very cool. Nice to have you, Gerald. Thanks for stopping in. And that reason is if there are other ways that the people are getting at the data. For example, if you want to send out an email when an item is added or changed within the database, so that could be SharePoint, that could be Dataverse, and your app is just one of the entry points to that data. Maybe there's several apps, but as you know, within SharePoint, a user can go back to SharePoint and start messing with the data, which if you're writing a Power Apps application, I'll try to lock that down as much as you can so that it would be very difficult for them to do that. And then, so in that case, you almost need a Power Automate flow. Okay. So I thought I'd just sort of go over that because when you're thinking about sending emails, sometimes people come across Power Automate is the way to send emails. Not really. I would say 90% of the time I'm sending them from Power Apps. Okay. All right, Nicole. Intuit with Intuit. Nicole says, "Good morning." Well, good morning to you, Nicole. All right. So we have this connector added. That is the first step. Okay. And I'm going to be honest here. This isn't going to take much time. It's fairly simple and straightforward. So what I want to do is after this email is created. Okay, so we have code in this button that sort of adds users to the users table, for example. So I want to explain because there's quite a bit of code that comes up there. If a user says, "Oh yeah, so I'm not actually the request, maybe I'm the service desk technician," and Mary Smith calls up the service desk, I answer the phone and like, "Yeah, I need a ticket created. I need a new laptop or something's broken." I would put Mary Smith down here as the requester, even though I'm the person entering the ticket. So it's a very good distinction that we have here in the application. So we're going to make sure those users are in our user table. If we take a look at our database system here, we have a whole users table. And when we reference users, we're going to reference them most of the time by this ID in the users table. So it makes sense that we make sure that any users added here, that they're actually in the users table. So if you see a bunch of code here, don't get freaked out. Okay, so there's just code that makes sure those users are in there. And then we are finally able to do our patch on the request. This is the meat of the code for this button. Okay, and in this case, what we're gonna do here is, okay, I'm going to go down here. Now, we had a previous video where we sort of displayed the ID of the newly added record. So I'm going to comment that out. I'll eventually take that out. I think what I'll do is I'll create a little comment here. Okay. If you guys have any questions as we're going along, please, it's the main reason I do live streams. Please make a comment in the, the comment section over here in the chat. And I'm always keeping an eye on it. So I can address any concerns. If you're following along with me, if you're typing up the code with me, adding these things, you have any type of issue, let me know. All right, Data is King says, hello, on vacation at Pensacola, Florida. Okay, cool. So I'm in Orlando, Florida. I think you're probably 4 hours away still, though, but nice to have you here in Florida. I'm going to assume that you're not originally from Florida, but nice to have you, Data is King. All right, so we're going to say send email notification about ticket creation. Okay. Now, in order to interact with the connector, a lot of times you just start typing the name of the connector. So I'm going to say Outlook. Okay, we've got 365. Now, I didn't do something right here. Outlook. Oh, it needs to be, so that's why I was probably calling it Office 365 first, because in the code, they must have just changed the name of the connector, but all the method calls stayed the same perhaps. Okay, so we're going to say Office 365. There's another connector called Office 365 users that allows us to get at the users. And we already have it. If you see up here on the left side, we've already added that connector in previous videos because we're getting at the user information. All right, so Office 365, I think it's Outlook at this point. Yeah, Outlook. And if you look at all these method names, we've got it can work with calendar items and probably task items, all kinds of stuff here. Okay. But what we're going to do here is Outlook, and I think it's called send mail. Yeah. And if you see, it says send email, but that is for a shared mailbox. You see that shared mailbox? Make sure we get the right method name. Okay, so you have send mail, send email v2. We're going to always pick the latest version because the latest version is always the best, right? Okay. And I'm going to indent this over. Now, if you look at the top of the screen here, it's the to field. Okay, so who should this go to? Okay. Well, I can tell you right now, we probably want to grab the person that is requesting the requester and also the person affected. So both are sort of kept in the loop for that. So I'm going to get at the name of that combo box. I'm going to hit Control C to put on the clipboard. And then we're going to go down here. Okay. So in the to field, and we'll say selected. Okay. And then we will get at the male property. Okay. And I'm going to finish out these parameters so I'm not getting any errors because I'm not providing other parameters. So the subject here, and here we'll put the body. Okay. And so this looks good. This should be right here. Okay. So what else should we do? In order to splice in another email address, what we would do is we would separate that email with a semicolon. And then Outlook's going to understand a lot of email systems will understand a little semicolon as a separator between more than one email address. Okay. Now I'm going to go grab the other combo box, but it's going to have the same selected.mail. So I'm going to put that there. Now the different parameters, I'm going to make sure that these are on different lines to keep things very simple. And we need to make sure we have another ampersand. And the ampersand is an operator that takes two things to the right and to the left. So you've got like a plus sign is an operator, a less than, greater than sign is an operator. And operators, and this applies to programming languages in general. And here we're working with the PowerFX programming language. So it's going to grab the thing on the right side, the thing on the left side, and in this case, it's going to put them together. Okay. Can you also add a distribution list? I believe so. I've not done that. I probably want to go look that up and do a little bit of research. Let's create a thread over in the Facebook group, and I can circle back and answer that question if that's okay. I'm almost positive you can. Okay. All right. So we're just going to keep on moving in this direction. All right, so I want to make sure that I have this combo box down here. Okay, and then over the save button, we're going to go in here. And I'm going to paste that in there. Okay, so we got those two things. Now, there is something that we could do as I'm thinking about it. In this case, look, I've got Darren Neese as the requester, Darren Neese as the affected person, okay? So if it's the same person, then why would we want to put both of them in there, right? I'm sure there is some way that we could use the distinct function here. We could do that. Yeah. I think it would make really complicated. I'm just trying to stick to just adding this email feature, and perhaps we'll add that. You know what? This is what you do in code, and as you're coding, you think of something that you want to do. Okay, say to do. Let's add in here to not have get to address ease. Okay, but for now I'm just going to grab those two, and we'll make it slick later. You can always go back and refactor and make screens and code a little better, but sometimes it's important just to make some good progress. Okay, so the subject line, what we'll say here is service ticket, service desk, ticket received. Okay. And then for the body, and you know what we could do here is put a little dash, and we could go up here and grab whatever is in this subject line. Okay. We can put that in there. Okay. So a little short description also appears in the subject line for the email. Okay. And now for the body, Pint Inho says, "Good evening from Sydney, Australia. Thanks for stopping by. I'm imagining it's getting pretty late in Australia. I think you guys might be the exact opposite. So you guys might be like 10 or 11 o'clock at night right now. So glad to have you. All right, moving on. So we've got the body, and what we're going to do here is we're going to add in some of the details that they've entered, because we could also have, be sending off these emails to other people. Let's say the service desk manager, maybe he wants an email to be carbon on all the tickets going on. So he's just sort of in the loop. I don't know. So we could do that, and they might want some more context. But I know in the body, we would definitely want all of this, okay? And we do have somebody from Kansas. Kevin, nice to have you from Kansas. All right. I don't know if Kansas is considered the Midwest. I was born and raised in Indiana and grew up in Illinois, so I'm from the Midwest myself. I know Kansas isn't too far off there. All right, so we've got body. Let's go ahead and make sure we have. And what's great about the body in an email is that you can have HTML in here. Okay, so we're going to take the subject line here, and we might even put in here. Yeah, in the middle. Yeah, very good. I think you guys have tornadoes over there. Well, I had tornadoes up in Indiana, Illinois, but we have hurricanes down here in Florida. But okay, so what we'll say here is short description, or we could say title, or we could say subject, ticket, subject. Okay. And then probably what I would do here is we're going to put in some HTML. If you don't know HTML, a BR tag is a horizontal space, and looks like it's from Pint Inho says 1216 from Australia. So yeah, it's getting late there. So hopefully you'll be able to stick with us to the end. All right. So we've got that, and let's do something similar. I'm going to copy that line, paste that there, and here, ticket full description. Okay. And what's the issue here? We probably need a ampersand right there. All right, so for the body, we're going to copy that and paste that right there. What other pieces of information would we want in here? I think I might want the date and the time. And let me look at this. I think at this point, what we're going to do is just I want to make sure that we add in the date and the timestamp. Okay. So what we're going to say is ticket created, and right here, for now, we'll just say now. What's the current date and time there? Okay. Oh, look at this. Yeah, we have a requested date and time up here. Okay, that's good. It might be a little different. I want those to be exactly the same. There might be a millisecond difference, and I believe it keeps track of that. And if I don't keep them the same, I feel like I'm being a little sloppy, to be honest. That might sound weird. I'm going to create a little context variable here. Okay. Context. Can you imagine if you got an email for a ticket and you're trying to track it down in the system? You go in the database as a database administrator or the administrator of this system, or as a developer, you go in, I say I have the exact date and time, and let's say it was the record was created in SharePoint and it took a full second to create that record. And then down below when you send the email, the second is one off. Um, can you imagine that you not being able to find a record because of that? That's why you got to think of that type of stuff. So you might say, well, Darren, that's anal retentive. Well, being a computer programmer or software developer sort of makes you that way. So I'm going to say in here, I'm going to paste that, make that a part of my variable name, and I will say now. And now we don't have to come up with that date and time anymore. We'll just reference that local variable there, okay? And then down here, we'll use this. Will always be the same. And good evening from Bangalore, India. Nice to have you. So great to be talking to people all over the world, isn't it? This is sort of cool, guys. We have a cool Microsoft technology called Power Apps that's bringing us all together. Yeah. All right. So what else we got here? Subject, body, suggested technician ID. The requester name affected. Okay. Priority might be a good thing here. Yeah, let's put the priority in here. Okay. Now, I would want to see this if it's a high priority or something. I almost want to see that at the top. Okay, like here's a ticket. This is how important it is. Okay. So I'm gonna take, let's say all this stuff. And we're gonna say priority. And now the priority, what we have here is just an ID. So let's go look. This is the ticket priority. Okay. And I'm just going to reference that gallery. Galleries are so great because click in here and say Control End. That will take me down to the bottom of the coding window here. For the priority, I'm just going to reference that gallery. They say dot selected. And we probably need a space before that ampersand. It's going to mess up our IntelliSense maybe, or if we pick something, it might overwrite that ampersand. So I'm going to hit, make sure it's some spaces in there, hit the dot again. And, I think maybe title is what we use for that type of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Okay. Now we can always go back and give more details. We can go back here and make this email much more pretty. Perhaps we can construct some really cool looking HTML and insert our values in there and send that out, and it would look really cool. Okay. So if any of you guys end up doing that, making it real pretty, post your screenshots in the Facebook group so we can all sort of see them and sort of pick each other's brains. Like, oh wow. So let's say Gerald has the coolest looking email. Hey, Gerald, would you mind sharing your code? I want that in my program. Wouldn't that be cool? All right, let's test this out. Okay, so we've got right now, what we're dealing with are just brand new tickets. And you can tell we can't click on any of these tabs up above because this is not an existing ticket yet. So I don't want to be adding images to a ticket if there's no ticket out there. All right. So I'm going to put in the subject line says, I can't do my work. My laptop is broken. I would say that's a high priority. If I can't do my job, yeah. And information technology, that's probably the best. Okay. And then I'm going to click on the button here. All right. So cross your fingers. Hopefully all this code works. Okay, all these tabs became enabled because we now have a good record. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my email client and see if that came across. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Look at that. Yeah, this is great, right? Now, this came over as low importance. I don't know that I like that. So if you send by default, your emails you send out from that connector are always going to be low priority, and I'll show you how to change that. So what we can do, okay, is we can that's actually an optional parameter. All right, so in this send email v2, right now we're dealing with one parameter. Okay, there's a comma. Then we've got the subject line, that's the two, then the subject, and then the body. Right now we're providing three parameters. And if you look up at the top here, if you follow my cursor, two, subject, body, then it has a dot, dot, dot. That will tell you that you've got some additional parameters or optional parameters that you can add on here. So I'm gonna hit comma, okay? And then what we have is really an optional record that we can pass in. And how do you delineate or define a record in Power Apps? You use curly braces. So we're going to do a curly brace thing right there. Okay. This will be fun. Okay. So in here, we can carbon copy people. Yeah. We can create attachments. We can set the importance, which is what we're looking for. And I would say we might want to say make that to be normal. Let me say high. I know high. Um, hmm, Probably need to, let's say, I'm going to copy this. I just want to make sure I do this parameter right. Okay. And let me say high importance. I don't use this code every day. I do send emails quite often from Power Apps, but I think maybe, yeah, it needs to be inside of a double quote. Okay, so it's not like an enumerated value. It's not going to give us IntelliSense for that. So what we'll say here, you'd either say normal, low, or high. So I'm going to take that string that I see on something that I just looked up here, and I'm going to put in a little comment and say, hey, these are your choices here. Okay. Now, what would be nice is we could change the importance level of the email based on what they select of these three. Wouldn't that be cool? We include approval workflow just in Canvas apps without Power Automate. Yeah, we're going to be doing almost everything in Power Apps. And I've done stuff in Power Automate. I don't claim to be an expert, but I don't know if everything is happening there within the app. It just seems so much simpler to do it. And I have a background in coding. It just I find Power Automate to be a little frustrating. And why go out to a different system and introduce another point of failure? And if you move this to a different environment, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to include my flow. You know, now there are so what I would do in an approval workflow, I would build that into my Canvas app. Okay, so for example, somebody had to have a request in order to get a new laptop. Well, the person that would do the approval would get an email that would link back to this application. They would have their own little dashboard that it would deep link into. So when they click on that link, it wouldn't just go to the home screen. It would go to the exact screen that they need to see their request, and they can click approve or deny. Okay, or kick it back to them like, hey, I need more information before I can approve this. So that's how I handle almost all types of approvals. I know Power Automate has an approval type of system. I tried it out once. I really didn't care for it. I like having a lot of control over the visuals here, and really, it's a sort of a one-stop shop, and I can do all kinds of things. And I don't want to confuse users with a completely different interface, so they'll come up with some type of Power Automate interface to do the approvals. And I don't think so, I don't think it is as nice as what we would do here. Okay, but I definitely appreciate that. Yes, sir. Hopefully, I pronounced your name right. All right. So what we could do is I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check for high, the word high in here. And if it's not high,
well, I might use low. All right, so it's going to make it a little complicated here. Not too complicated. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let's use a switch. Okay. Now, if you're familiar with switches, it's an alternative to doing it like an if then else within Power Apps or a programming language. Almost every programming language that would have an if would also have some type of a switch or select case, that type of thing. Okay. And I'm trying to look up the reference very quickly here. And here we are. Switch. Maybe. Yeah, there's switch. Coming from a background, originally I got in the industry doing VB, and they called it select case or a case. And then if you get into other programming languages like JavaScript, C Sharp, or Java, would be called switch. And so the first item that we want to look at, if you look at the priority, we can just take a look at that title there, okay? Because we're going to have three options, okay? If we just had two options, I'd probably use an if statement, but because we have three, I'm going to do this, okay? So if that text is, well, let's go look at these texts here, high, low, medium, okay? So we have high, low, and then normal for this email connector. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to check for the word high. If it's high, we're going to return high. Okay. If it is low, then I want to return low. I was taking a moment to think, maybe is there a slicker way that I could do this? Otherwise, the default will be normal. Okay. Now I need a comment in there. And we have an issue here. Okay. And that issue is we don't want that in there. There you go. That should take care of it. And what I was thinking was, well, we can just pass this thing into that importance. But would it handle something like a value like medium? Would it equate medium to normal? So that's why I did it that way. Okay. All right. So we have importance there. What other options can we provide? So this little curly brace, we could include a few other things as well. Okay. So we could put a comma here, and so we've got blind carbon copy. We can have attachments, all kinds of different stuff. The importance, and I think those might be the only. If I hit A, what does it give me? Attachments. Okay. Okay. So I think I'm going to leave it as that. Okay. So I'm going to create a brand new. Now this button right now only creates new tickets. Now what happens if I just click this again? It's going to create a new ticket. And now I'm gonna check out this new email that's going to come through. Okay, I'm waiting for that to come across. I hear my phone vibrating. It means my phone always gets my emails before my computer does. Isn't that weird? All right, so look at this. With high importance, and up in my full listing of emails, I got a little red exclamation point. It's very noticeable if it's either high or low. If it's low, there's a blue downward arrow. What's that blue downward arrow? Okay. Now, something that I would like to do is probably make these headings, these little labels, to be bold. So it makes them sort of stand out so that it doesn't all blend in together. Okay, so let's do that. And eventually we're going to put some more sophisticated HTML in there, like maybe put it in a table or have like columns and of information. All right, so for ticket received, let's do strong. And I'm going to copy that on the clipboard because we're going to use a lot. I'm going to paste it here and here and here and here. Now, do we want the colon to be bold? I think so. I'm going to undo, make sure it's on the right side. Now, for these, we actually want to make sure it's a closing HTML tag. So if you're not familiar with HTML, this might look a little strange. So you've got tags. It's a markup language, so you've got tags all over the place. And so the first one will be the opening tag. So you've got some text, and then you've got a closing tag. So you've got a little slash in there. So we've got all that. And let's try this again and take a look and see what it looks like. Okay. I'm going to hit save again. All right. There you go. Very good. Some bold. All right. So I'm looking at the comments here. Questions, comments, concerns. Are you guys following along? Are you getting your emails? Is everything working on your end? Okay. So if there aren't any, I'm going to leave that as that. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to start building out our dashboard. Okay. Are you guys excited about that? Hey, if you're getting anything helpful out of this, a comment or even a like really helps the channel and lets people like you know this is good content. Much appreciated. And guys, I think I'll mention right here, right now. So this is a full course that I'm building out with you guys, getting your feedback, making sure that I'm building it in a way that makes sense to you guys at the right pace and the speed. I'm answering all your questions and such. This eventually will be a fully paid course. You won't be able to get to the content unless you pay for the course. And so this is sort of like a beta, a beta type of thing, or like beta software. You put it out there and you get feedback. And a lot of times it's free while it's a beta, but eventually it turns into a real product. And the reason why I'm going to eventually turn into a paid course is because I want to create more content for you guys. And really creating a lot of good content and stuff is just, I've only got maybe a lunch break here and there, maybe on the weekends. And I want to be able to create a lot more and better content for you guys that have more time to do better content. So the good news is that Nicole actually has some good news for us about a special offer. Okay.
Ooh. Real quick. Hey guys, I'm Nicole, Darren's boss. Well, his wife. Listen, I have a special one-time offer for you. Darren is taking everything you're learning along with his Jumpstart Kit and packaging it into a full-blown course along with coaching that will teach you step by step how to create this application that you could sell or implement at your job. By the way, Darren sells applications just like this for 8 to 10 grand, which, by the way, is what an app like this goes for. How much would it be worth to you to have the skills to build apps that sell? Well, once this course is finished, it's gonna sell for $9.97. But if you take action now, we're gonna let it go for half off along with his Jumpstart Kit. And you'll be able to participate in the live group coaching calls. Darren will personally teach you and coach you how to build an application like this and answer all of your questions during the live training. He will make sure you understand everything you need to know in order to create the app. But even better, if you get in now, for the first 10 people, we're gonna let it go for just $250, which, by the way, is what Darren charges for 1 hour of private tutoring. So look out for the link. All right, guys, I think he's coming back. Bye.
I'm back. And so just one last thing I will say about that she did not mention, because that course includes the Jumpstart Kit, which is my application template that I talk quite a bit about on the channel, is that if you've already purchased my template, then you get that amount, whatever you paid, that will be deducted. So you just need to send me a message like, hey, I bought the Jumpstart Kit. I'd like a different landing page or the coupon or whatever, and I'll send you a link to get that discount. So right now, I think the Jumpstart Kit is at like 160 if I remember right. So take 250 minus 160, so you're getting the whole course for $100. Or somewhere around there. Okay. So that's not bad. If you think about like training, if you go off and pay some type of a place to teach you for a week. A lot of times the market price of that is about $1,000. And I think what we're doing here together is we're building out a course that's probably going to be a lot longer than a week. So I'd like to think that there's a lot of value here, and it's definitely worth that. Okay. But so I'm going to move on. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is move on to the dashboard. Now, I think what I might use is the home screen here. Okay. So I changed the graphic up here to be somebody that might be answering people's phone calls. Somebody might be working the service desk. I thought it was very appropriate for this screen as they come up and look at, okay, this is a ticketing system. And this perhaps might be the person helping me on the other line or answering my emails. Okay. So sometimes I do that in a lot of my applications. I have some type of graphic or image that lets them know that they're in the right place rather than just popping them in on a data entry screen. Okay. So what we're going to do here, it's going to be the beginning of a dashboard. And what I want to present them is a list of all the tickets that they've created or they're affected by. Okay. So let's go find us a gallery that we've used previously, or we have on some other screen that we can just copy and paste over. Okay. So I'm going to go over here because we have a lot of galleries that we're using here. And you know what? We could just use this one right here. Yeah. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go back over to the home screen. Paste that there. Okay. And then I'm going to move it in here. There we go. And we probably only want to see requests that are currently open. Okay. Let's go over here and look at what the name of it is. We called it should be just requests. Okay, so maybe I just need to type it out. Yeah, requests. Yeah, there it is, the first item. All right, so requests. And we're going to be looking at, what did we set the status of our ticket at over here? Let's go take a look. So Vince says, great work, Darren. I can't watch live, but I will later. Okay, very good, very good. And just in case anybody, I always like to mention this, is if you come in on the live stream, you're like, oh, I missed the beginning. You know, I'm just here in the middle. What you can do is you completely rewind while it's going live. You can do that. You can pause. You can fast forward as long as I have covered that amount so far. So you can rewind, and you can also change my speed. So I'm talking 1.5 or 2, and you could actually sort of catch up. So I thought I'd mention that, but it's nice to have you, Vince. Okay, so what we want to do is look at the status, the ticket status. Okay, so what do we have here for our ticket status? Do we actually have a ticket? Did we actually set this up? And I don't think we have. Okay, so it's sort of good that we're doing this. Okay, so status. Now let's go, because we have a whole screen to manage our statuses as an application administrator of this system. So we go into statuses. Okay, so it could be a new, it could be working on or completed. Now I'm thinking that we'll probably add quite a few. For example, I know while working in IT, there's also one called waiting on customer. Okay, well, let's add that in there. Okay, and we'll move that in here, probably above completed. Okay. And I think I would want to see, as a customer, I want to see all the tickets that I've created or am affected by with any of these statuses, except maybe complete. I don't need to see stuff I've done a year ago that are closed or completed there. All right, I'm going to go back real quick here. Okay, and I'm looking for that completed. Let's go look at that in our SharePoint. I want to look at the data real quick. Okay, so here we have request statuses. Let's go look at these statuses. We just added one. I don't know why it's not showing up there. I'm going to hit F5. There it is. Okay.
Now we could just look for this word completed. We could do that. Or we could reference it by the ID, which hopefully would never change. But if somebody accidentally deleted completed and like, oh yeah, we need a completed test, and they re-add it, that'd be a little bit of a problem. So I'm gonna compare against that word completed. I think that might be the best way to go about it. Okay, I'm gonna click on this. I'm gonna make sure there's no weird on select code in there. Okay, if you copy and paste controls over like a button or something like this, you always want to make sure, like, well, hey, what's in the on select? I don't want to accidentally be clicking on something and be trying to do something that another screen was doing. All right, so what we want to do is we want to check on the status on this. Okay. What I want to do, because there could be 100 different tickets in here, maybe. Probably not. Probably just 1 to 3 or 1 to 10, maybe at the most. Talking about open tickets at a time. Okay, so if I say status, what do we have? Status ID. Likely request status ID. Okay, so we could say 3. Now something that we could do, this might be a good idea, is here on this home screen, we could do a little lookup here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a context variable, context. Say look, and I'm going to say status completed ID. Could do that. Yeah, I was thinking within a gallery, you really don't want to do any lookups for every row within a gallery. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'll go out to the thing and search for it and get the ID. But if you just give me a moment, I think what we could do, we don't have to do, well, we definitely do need the ID because we don't have the status name inside the SharePoint list. Okay, so it looks like we will have to do that. Okay. Sometimes when I'm developing stuff in SharePoint for the data is I'll actually put over, so we have the record status ID. Sometimes I'll put the request status text in there, status name, so we could reference it by name. But I'm not going to change it at this point. So in this case, this would be a good idea. We're going to go get the ID. Okay, and we're going to do a lookup, and we'll say request and we're going to go look where the title equals complete, the complete or completed. That's what's sort of bad about referencing something by a name. Well, if somebody goes in and changes it, you know what I might do? This would be really cool. We could say title starts with. That should work. So whether it says complete or completed, it's going to pull that in. Okay, so that might be a good idea. Okay, so it starts with title, and the second thing will be start. Okay. And then here we need to return whatever field that we want to get at. Okay. Now, I'm going to click on format text. I want to see what it does to my code here. And what it does to my code is going to format things. And typically I like to write my code in this way. And if I didn't, I use that. So it ends up doing this to it. Okay. This might look a little, it just spread it out over like 10 lines. I love this feature of Power Apps because if you click on it and it formats, if it allows you to click on this, it means there's no errors that it recognizes. Okay. All right. So here's a question. Jolly was wondering if we could use the sort order instead. We could, but let's go and look at this. Let's say somebody, the system administrator for the system, so the completed has the largest number. So we could do a max, use the max function to get the maximum value out of this result set and say, okay, well, if it's 4, then it's done. We don't need it. Okay. What if the app admin came in here and added another item called archived? Okay, so let's say after they have a records retention policy that they need to keep all of their tickets for 7 years. And then after 7 years, it's going to go out and it's going to change the record status from completed over to a new status of archived. Okay. And we could say where sort order is greater than or equal to 4. It just sort of seems like I hate for that to be dependent upon that. If somebody starts adding in new items there, so sort of something to keep in mind. So that's why I wouldn't do something like that, because there might be something right after that. And you always want to be thinking about, well, what if somebody changes? How could this get messed up? Is how I think. You learn to be a sort of a pessimistic type of thinker as you're building out an app like this. Okay, so we're going to get this value here. Now I'm going to go to a different screen and come back. And the reason why you want to do that is you get that screen on visible event, that code to run. So now it should have a value here. Okay, and as you see here, if I double click on this a variable name, this local variable, it's going to give me the value of 3. Now, is that right? Oh, the value of 3. I was looking at sort order for a second. Yeah, so there we go. So if it says completed or it says complete, it's going to pull that item out there. All right. And the great news is that we're not doing that lookup for every record inside of our gallery. That would be bad. That would make your application sluggish if there were a lot of records. You know, somebody could have dozens upon dozens of records out here. Okay. So if we look here, so I don't have any, you know what? I want to look at the requests that are not completed, not the ones that are. So let's do a greater than, less than. There we go. There are my tickets. And let's, I'm going to open up my little toggle here. And I'm going to copy and paste my little rectangles here to make sure everything's spaced out well. And then inside here, I think what would be a good idea is to have a subject to the ticket. Look at all this. All right. And then I think I might be tempted to put in the date right before that, so we know when it was. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that, put that in there. Say request, date time. Okay. Now, do we care about, in this dashboard, do we care about the time with the ticket? I don't think so. I think over the span of time, I don't care that I entered the ticket 9 o'clock as opposed to 10 o'clock. Okay. They could click into this ticket and go look at the details. So I'm going to say no. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the text function, and I'm going to sort of format that date and time. And I'm going to say something along the lines of month, day, year. Okay. And for dates, I might keep it like that as far as in the justification, right, left, or center. Okay. Now, what might look good is if we have a little header here for the gallery. So let's go look at other screens where we used a header. And I'm going to turn off that debugging feature there. And I'm going to go over to the app admin. So if I go over to application administration, I can get over there. Okay. And let's see here. If I click on this control, I want to make sure this menu is on. This is something you always have to do when you have stuff like spinners and menus. You're always continually going in here and making sure they're always at the top, because when you have the spinner kickoff, sometimes those things are on top of the spinner, which you don't want. Okay, so if we go into one of these guys here, so we've got this little gallery header, so we're going to add that. I'll grab those three things, and then I'm going to zoom in here and try to get that little rectangle as well. Copy. Paste it. Okay. Now the question is, are these labels dependent upon that rectangle? And it looks like they are. Okay, that's a good thing. So I'm going to try to get that rectangle there. And I'm going to try to move this rectangle. You know, it's already dynamic. It's already positioned dynamically based on the other screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the name of this gallery here. Yeah. And then go back into the rectangle. And you see these little X, Y, and width are all sort of grayed out. It's because you've got some code behind there. So I'm going to paste that there. We go over to Y, I'm going to paste it there. And then for width, I'm going to paste this here. And look what I did. It's all perfectly sort of situated in there, right? Now we do have a little thing here that isn't quite right. So I'm going to grab this rectangle here, the name of it. I'm going to click on this label. You guys are probably familiar with me doing all this type of stuff because this is how I always set up my galleries. Okay, so I'm going to reference the rectangles X. Okay, so we should be good there. And then we also need to sort of size this down. I think these other labels are going to dynamically move with it. Okay, so my question to you guys right now, should we have any more information besides just the date of when it was entered and also the, you know, what we could do is we could have a date and time string for when it was last modified. We could do that. Okay, let's move this down a little bit. Okay, now we're going to rename this value to created. In that case, we need to make it maybe 120, a little bit bigger, or 130. And inside here, the field name is called request date time. Okay, I think I'm going to leave the column as created. All right, so I think I'm going to, don't see anything in the chat. I think I'm going to leave it as is for right now. Okay, so we got created. And this thing is dynamically positioned based on how wide this is. Now, I'm going to say short description. Or we could call it subject. And then I'm going to make this really wide because I want this label to follow this label's lead. Okay, so I'm going to copy the name of that guy. I'm going to go into this label and I'm going to go find the X and I want it to be very dynamic. I'm going to say the X of that heading, but I'm also going to subtract the parent.x and that's going to line it up just right. All right, now I'm going to go over to the width. Okay, there we go. What do you guys think of that, huh? Isn't that cool? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up a little bit. Okay. I might move that down. Let's say 230. That looks good. And then make sure the height is set up right as well. Okay. So these are all the tickets I created. Isn't that cool? All right. What do we want to do now? What should happen is if they click on one of these records, they should go over to the other screen. Okay. Now, the question I want to pose to you guys is I like to have a little icon here that they have to click on in order to go into it. I don't want them to be like clicking around like, oh, do I want this one? Like, I don't know. Sometimes people are clickers. Okay. I'd sort of like to hear from several of you. should the whole click event of anywhere in this row, should that take them off to go view the ticket, or should they have to click on one little thing, like a little button or a little icon? Let me know in the description. I typically like to have a little icon. Okay. That's just my preference there. Now, what I might do, and I like to create my icons with a tool called loading.io. And you guys might be familiar with this. If you're not, you're in for a treat. Let me make sure I'm signed in. It looks like I am. Okay. And I'm going to bring this window over here. Okay. So I create all my my little animated SVGs. It creates SVGs for you. It can create animated GIFs and all kinds of stuff. But SVGs are great. They're very efficient for the web and in Power Apps. Okay. Very good. Okay. Oscar says agree with the icon. Okay. Very good. All right. Okay. So you create spinners, you create also images. So I'm going to go in here and look at the icon library and look at all these things. Another thing to look at, like, oh, this isn't really the style I'm looking for. We'll go in here and look at the themed icons. Okay. I like to use some type of corporate looking type of icons, and I'll point it out once I see it. Infographics can be really nice. Business, that might be one we look at. Okay. Business inline. So these are a little bit lower, like they just have like little lines rather than like a 3D effect or a lot of colors in there. I think they add stuff to this. This is great stuff. And I don't remember how much I pay for this. Maybe a lot of this stuff is free if you use this website, but I think you only get so many, and I use it so much. I'm like, I want to pay for it, you know. Gov. This is the one that is my favorite. It's got more of a corporate type of look to things. Okay. So what icon here says select me or go? That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm keeping in my mind as I'm looking through all these. And sometimes I really don't see anything in a particular theme here. Now this might be good. Like, oh, I'm going to edit this. Okay. But we might just want to be looking at it too. So something else you can do. Let me, yeah, we're at the bottom anyway. I'm going to go into icon library. I'm going to do a search. Okay. I'm going to do search for select, which is exactly what we want to do here. It's like, hey, so we got a lot of notifications come in that I need to silence here. Okay. So here's some, if this was a little sideways, I might do something like that. I sort of like that. Let's click on it and see if we can move it. Delay. Sometimes you can actually rotate it, which would be nice. I know you can rotate icons within Power Apps. Okay, what? Library. There's one in here that I've used before, and when I create them, I always create it with a theme in mind. So sometimes, you know, I wouldn't be reusing something I've had in the past. I got to go find it and then create the colors that I like. Let me see if I can go find that. If I go into my assets, these are ones that I've saved that I've used in the past. Okay, so here's all these spinners that I've done. I really like. This is the one that I like. When I want to select something and go into a different screen, it's got a little arrow like, hey, go into this. And it seems to be almost a Power App standard. You know, if you add, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. If I add in a gallery, make it vertical here. And let's give it a background color of light blue or something. You see, it's got these little icons and it's like, oh, little arrow. So that's why I like to sort of stick with that if people are familiar with that. And that's what Microsoft is putting in there by default. Okay. And by the way, I never use that predefined gallery. I think it's more, gives you more problems than what it's worth. Sometimes I'll use like a little edit icon, and I'll show you some of the others I have here if you guys are interested in the icons that I've built with this tool. Yeah, there's a little downward chevron that I used on the other screen. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use this one. I'm hoping that I can modify it, and I should be able to. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I need to go grab the colors for this theme. Okay, so let's go and look in my app on start. And once I'm in the coding one, I'm going to hit Control End. And I'm going to go look at the themes. Okay, so here is, well, I have all kinds of themes in here. And I'm hoping that it's the, well, go look for my settings here. I'm going to be looking for Intuit-Aqua. Okay, and there it is. So I'm looking for the primary dark, which is this color in there. And then I'll look for the secondary dark there. And let me show you what I got going on here. So I pasted the first value there, second value there. Okay. And I don't want any type of animation. I thought that was cool when I came across this tool, and I started doing animations, and I had clients say, "Hey, that animation is freaking me out. Can you stop that?" So I thought that was funny. But I don't know if people feel like it's alive or whatever. Sort of, it like draws their attention to it when they don't want to always be looking at that or thinking about clicking on it. So I typically create static stuff here, unless it's a spinner. All right, so we got transparent on, got all this stuff. The size, I like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it on a different screen here. Static, download, stored on the hard drive here. And where I want to put it is if I go add a graphic, where is it going to have me do this? Okay, so it's going to have me put it there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it right there. And listen, I always name my graphics a certain way because you can be referencing it inside of code. So I always type in GRA, short for graphic, because it can be an image, it can be a photo, it can be all kinds of stuff. It can be a spinner. So any type of multimedia, I'll just say graphic in that case. I'll say select row. Exactly what I want to have happen there. Okay, select row. So now I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to get out of that. I don't know that this window is responding. I'm going to hit Control S because I'm a little scared. You guys ever in Power Apps and your Power Apps window starts not responding to you? For me, that's a little scary. Means you might have lost some work if it doesn't come back, Oh, and the reason why I did is it brought up another window. That's why. I'm funny. Okay, so it's going to bring that in. And make sure I hit Control S. Make sure we've got a save on this. And if Oscar says all the time, yeah, it can be a little scary. Sometimes it's not the most stable thing. So I always hit Control S, create those manual restore points. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click in here. And I'm going to click on this little graphic over here on the side. Now, my face in this video is covering this up. I'm going to click. I mean, you see all these graphics here. I'm going to click on the one. It always adds new items at the bottom, which is sort of nice. You can always find them very easily. Okay, it added it. Okay, I'm going to move it over here to the side. Now, when I add things to the side, I don't like to get too close to the side because more than likely there's going to be a scroll bar there, perhaps. And I'm going to make the width 50. I want it to be a little, pretty much a square here. So I want to leave a little bit of a space for a scroll bar. And also, I only want to show it is if it's that row is currently selected because it starts to look a little cluttery. Okay, here's a button on every one. I don't know. What do you guys think? as you guys are doing your apps, you guys can sort of deviate from what I'm doing. You can deviate all over the place, and just put your style and your flair on it. Okay. So what I'm going to do, what I like to do is I like to go down to visible, and I like to say this item dot is selected. Now, some of you might do an if statement here. If this item dot is selected, comma, true, comma, false. But the is selected already gives you a Boolean value, and this visible property is expecting a Boolean value. So there is really no need to do an if then else if you already have a Boolean value. So that's why I do this time. It makes it just sort of simpler. Okay. So I'm going to make sure I have that first record selected. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to test it out. I click around, a little icon goes around, and it's not very obvious that this record, I mean, the background color sort of is highlighted there. It's a little subtle. Okay. And then when they click on that, okay, on the click event, I want to go over to this screen. Okay. That's great. I'm going to click on that graphic. I'm going to go into action. I'm going to click on select. Okay. I'm going to allow that select parent to still stay there. You always want that in every control within your gallery. And then I'm going to say navigate. And I always like to use fade. I think it looks the nicest. And then the third parameter is going to be a little record. It's like having a context variable. You're defining context variables here. Okay, so we're going to create all of our context variables with LOC, as we should. And then what we're going to say is record. Okay, now before I do this, this is what we need to say, this item. Okay, we could do that. I want to go over to that screen, and I want to look at what we have in that button, because we actually create this thing at the bottom here. Where we created LOC record. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Now over in this screens on visible, we don't do anything with that. Okay, that's good. So the question is, if I click on this, will that data appear? Okay. So what I'm going to do over this next screen, if we're going to test this out, I want to know that it's working just great. And I'm going to add in a label here. And I'm going to reference that loc record dot. What are we calling it? Subject. Okay. Also, I like to put a little border on there so I don't lose track of that little label in case it never has any value. Okay. And then I'm going to make this a little wide. Right. Let's try this out. I can tell things are on top of my spinner. So the first thing I do is I make sure that menu's on top. I'll go find my spinner, which is right here, and make sure that's on top. All right. So now let's click on this test ticket 2. Yay! Okay, very good. So we have that record selected. Now you notice these controls aren't pulling those records because right now, up to this point, we have only designed the screen for adding new requests. It doesn't deal with any old requests, any existing records that are already in the system. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this text box and I'm going to look at the default. Well, we don't have anything for default. All right, so we make this gallery up here. We have a display mode based on if this is blank or not. You guys see that? I'm going to copy that code because I like it, and I'm going to use it here. So for this little text box, for the default, it's blank, I want the default text to be blank. Otherwise, I want to use that record dot subject. Why is it not showing up? There we go, subject. Look at that. So it's showing it. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using this for a lot of other things here. Okay. So like for this full request here, I'm going to paste that in there. But instead of subject, we want body. Yeah, body. Maybe I didn't type in a full request description. Let's go back. And you know what? I almost want to sort this. Okay, it is sorted by sort order. Now the question is, does my ticket have a sort order? That's a little strange. Let's sort by this request date time. Okay. Now the question for you guys is, do we want it sorted ascendingly, which is default, or descending? So do we want to, let's say we've created a ticket every day for the last 7 days. Do we want the ticket we created today at the top or the bottom? Now you would think your older tickets, the ticket that we entered 7 days ago, should be completed first. I think if I entered a ticket today, it's fresh in my mind. I want to see that right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say descending. Okay, put that in there. So the very last one I did should be at the very top. So I'm going to click on that. I can't do my work. Go in there. Okay, so you see these two things are different. So it is pulling that in. That's good. All right, very good. Now, here's a question. If we want to be able to update this ticket, like let's say I just created, I'm like, oh, I didn't type in anything. This wasn't a very good description. So I'm going to add some stuff to this. Okay, so let's go in here with our patch. Let's go down here. Okay. We could do some type of a if statement here. So the second parameter of a patch is either using the defaults that will create a new record, or you can go do a lookup or reference that record in some way and say, I want to update this particular record. Now, what about the code surrounding this ticket? Is the code surrounding this ticket, like over here, does it have to do with a new ticket? And I would say yes. So in that case, and we may not want to send out a ticket every time it's updated. Okay. So what I think I'm going to do, I don't need that commented out code anymore. And I don't think, yeah, we don't need this stuff in here. All right, so let's do an if statement, and that's going to be based on this LOC record. Okay. And right here, if is blank, comma, okay, we'll do a new record. Otherwise, we'll do a modify. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out that part. I'm going to cut that. And at the bottom of this, I'm going to paste. Okay, I'm going to do a comma there. And so here for the paste, the else block is I'm going to say, I'm going to have a patch statement there. But for right now, I'm going to say notify add update code here. Okay. because I don't want to work on it just yet because all this is, in my mind, a little messed up because it's not indented and it's going to be hard to sort of manage if it's not indented right. Okay, I'm going to hit tab. Very good. Add in some code here. New ticket record. All right. So now, copy that. Paste that down there. So say save existing record. Okay. And that existing ticket record will be very similar to this. Okay. I can get rid of that notify. If I didn't put that notify in there, it would give me red squigglies all over the place and it sort of messes me up a little bit. All right. So we're going to do that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say look up requests and go search for the ID on loc record. And that, well, .id, the ID of that record. And that will go get the record. Now, there are some fields in here that we may not want to apply again, such as request date and time. Okay, we don't want to update that. I think everything else could be updated, okay, or should be able to be updated. All right, so let's try this out. So we've got in now do you see this? This is blank now because we changed code that messed with that variable. Let's go back to the home screen and let's click on it again. Okay, come on, there we go. And I'm going to say new info. Hit save. You see this label is updated. If I go back home, you'll see new info here. Yeah? What do you guys think? All right, so I'm going to go back in there. Now, there are some other fields that aren't really set up right for all this. So we've updated this field. We've updated this field. Okay. But all these others have not been. And what I mean by that is the default values coming in. Okay. Now, for these things here, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go pull up a record here or pull up some code. And it'll take a moment. And while that's working, I'll do something else here with you guys. Okay, I'm going to go into that project there. I've got a good example of that. All right, so what I'm going to do here, so we're pulling up. Okay, for a gallery, we'll handle these combo boxes here in a moment. For these two galleries, a gallery has got a default value, and it's right here. So let's look at that. We're looking at departments. Okay, we're making the information technology be the default, and I like that. Okay. However, if this came in as a human resources ticket, we want that human resources to be the default, to actually be selected if that's been saved, set and saved for that ticket. Okay. So I'm going to go back over to this thing where we have a little if then else. Okay. And I'm going to grab that. I'm going to go back over here into this gallery. Got the gallery selected. I'm looking at default. I'm going to open up this coding window and I'm going to create some space. I'm going to paste that here. What I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit here so the code is a little bigger for you guys. Hopefully that's a little better, maybe a little more. Okay. If it is a new record, then I want to use this lookup. Okay. And then if it's not, I'm going to hit paste here for a moment. If it's not, what do we have here? Do we have we have departments. So do we have a department ID? Associated department. And it is an int. Okay, associated department ID. It's going to be the ID of the department. And then we're going to reference the loc record. It's associated department ID. Now that will give us the record, and that's good. Okay, so let's back out of this and let's change this to human resources. Hit save. We'll go back home. And let's, well, I want to click on a completely different record. Okay, and then go back and select the record that we just edited. Human resources. All right. We're making progress, guys. We're making progress. I'm going to hit Control-0 to sort of zoom out there a little bit. I am going to copy that code that I'm so proud of. I don't want all that space in there, though. Okay. Copy in there. Over here, go over to default. Okay. I'm going to take this, paste it there. Okay. And I'm going to say, what, priority ID? Priority ID. Okay, it is high. Let's change the priority to medium. Okay, then I'm going to go to a completely different record. Hopefully it has a different priority. Well, let's change this to low. Okay, now we'll go back and bring up this last one. And it's medium, right? We set it to medium, right? One more test we could do. We just go back and select that last one that should have low. Yeah, so it's all working. All right, so those are working. I need to find another piece of code that I use for my people pickers. Okay, so yeah. Let's go take a look at this. So for this people picker, I want to go look at, it's a combo box. Items. I don't think we even set this up. Default selected items. Yeah, we don't have a default setup for that one. But in these other two, we should. Yeah, default selected items. All right, let's work with these two for a moment. All right, Gerald says, FYI, I solved a 1-week-old problem just now regarding user's first name error by adding .result to my expression. I hope I can ask you more about this later. Please, and thanks for letting me interrupt. Yeah, no problem. You know what? Bring that up in our little Zoom call that we'll have here in probably about 30 minutes. Okay. And we'll discuss all this stuff. Okay. All this stuff that you guys want to bring up, we can do that. Now I can focus on what you're doing this video. Okay, cool. You know what? My mind works the same way, man. if I have a bunch of red squigglies, I mean, I got to solve that error. So that's why I do stuff like I did a few minutes ago with that notify. Yeah, our minds work in weird ways sometimes. Okay, so we got that search user. Okay, now what we need to do here is if it was an existing record, we need to check to see if not is blank loc record. I want to check to see if it's blank. And if it's not blank, I'm trying to think here for a moment. Okay, yeah, we definitely want to default that to. Okay, I'm going to back this up because our situation is different from the application I've built before that I'm pulling this from. If it is blank, it's a new record, we want to default to the current user. And we do so, we're looking at the email and we'll find that person and put them in there. Okay. Otherwise, if we're dealing with an existing record, then we're going to do the same search. We don't need that comma at the end, of course. I didn't mean to copy this over as well. Okay. Else, we're going to do a search for the record. Okay. Now, what field are we on? We're on requester. We have ID and name. Okay. And we were doing an email there. I'm gonna do name. All right, let's see how this works out here. I mean, we could go do a lookup and find the email like we did here. All right. So we got requester name. Let's test this out. I'm gonna assign this one to Nicole. She might be getting emails for this. Sorry, Nicole. I'm going to hit save. Actually, shouldn't send an email because this is not a new record. Yay. All right. I'm going to go into a different record. I'm going to go into this, the very first one that we did. Okay, this is weird. See, it still has Nicole in here. That's an issue. All right. So is this blank? It should not be blank. It should be a record, and we could open this up. You'll see it's not a new record. Okay. If it is blank, we're going to do this. Let's look at this people picker. Let's look at the search field here. So we can open up fields. It's going to be searching on display name. Sometimes the display name in Active Directory, the display name that Power Apps gives you are a little different. Sometimes you got like last name, comma, first name. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this consistent. I'm going to always make the search field to be, well, the search field always has to be the name, display name, because they're not going to type in somebody's email address. They're going to type in their name. Okay, so let's always make sure that's the name then. Okay, so here we're going to say full name. Sort of makes me want to go to the user table. to be honest. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this should work. We're just grabbing the full name there. Now, what's good about all this little testing that we're doing, what we have here, if we go into our tickets, go to requests, request your name. Okay. Okay, I think this is going to be fine. Now, if you work at an organization that the display name that you get from Office 365 and you're using that instead of the user full name, you might have to change things up a little bit whenever you add a new user to your users table. You would need to find out what the display name is, maybe have an additional field in the users table called display name. Don't allow anybody to modify that because that needs to be exactly the same that your Active Directory uses. In my Active Directory, my organization, it's first name space last name. So this is always going to work. Okay. Okay. So I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm being facetious. I'm being funny here. So you can actually have it search using multiple fields as long as you type it as a list. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. You learn something new every day, huh? Okay. I'm sort of interested in that. Q6. Let me go over here to fields and we click on search field. How do we, okay, I think I see what you're saying here. Inside this code here, search term, you said multiple fields as long as you type it in a list. So how do I do that? How do I create this as a list? Do I type in a little sample code of, and I think what you're talking about is what right here, okay? You just call me Q. All right, cool. All right. All right, Q. By the way, that reminds me, if any of you guys watch Star Trek, it reminds me of a character in Star Trek named Q, who always gave the Captain Picard a hard time. I don't know if there's any relation there. So Q. What should I type here? If I want to search on multiple things, what do I do here? I'm learning something new here, guys. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it as is unless I see you respond here to me. We could also touch on this in the Zoom call here in a few minutes, okay? All right. All right, so I'm going to leave it as is. Aha. Okay, that's sort of what I was thinking. So it's sort of like an array, how you create an array. Okay, so let's say full name, user, email. Oh, I need my parentheses. Do that right? First name, last name. So I'm not sure that I don't want to mess with it too much if it's not simple and clear, very straightforward. So Q, if you wouldn't mind, if you're interested in helping us out with that, come over on our Zoom call. If you want to join the Zoom call, you have to be in that Facebook group because that's where I'll paste it. I don't want to paste Zoom call credentials and things out here publicly. We might get a bunch of spammers and stuff, which we don't want. Okay, so I'm just going to move on from here for right now. So we'll just use our name to search on. This should be fine. Okay. And if we always store over here the requester's name as first name space last name. Yes, here it says variable or variable two. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank both of you. I think I'm not going to mess with it now. We can look at it in the Zoom call if you guys want to talk more about it there. A lot of times I'm always sort of shooting from the hip from stuff I have experience in. And if I haven't done something before, it just ends up with me. You guys might not mind here on the live stream, but if somebody's watching this a year from now, they don't want to see me spend 30 minutes fumbling around with something, doing it the first time. So I don't want to spend too much time trying to get through that. Um, and also, the Zoom calls will be recorded. So if somebody's watching this from a year from now, like, I'm really interested to know how to do that. Well, there should be a playlist out there for Zoom calls. Okay. So if we go in here and do a search for, well, you got to click on my name here, the name of my channel, and you click on playlists, Zoom and WhatsApp. So there's also a WhatsApp group that I'm a part of, and we have calls there. Okay. Let me size this down. A lot of times people really, really want some one-on-one help, and these Zoom calls are a perfect opportunity to get that one-on-one help with me. So if you, that's a way to sort of get some one-on-one help. Preferably, I mean, if there's only one person on and they have a problem unrelated to this project, I may help you out. But the whole idea of having a Zoom call right after this live stream has to do with what we covered here in this live stream. But if there's not many people on there and we have time, we could talk about other stuff as well. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use this. I'm going to paste it over here. Now this one says top 20. And this one over here says top 1. Okay, we definitely want just the 1. Okay. But in this case, this is going to be affected. Person affected name. Okay. All right. And then for this one, default selected items, we'll go in here. We don't want to set the default for the suggested technician because it's completely optional. We don't want to automatically put somebody in there. So I'm going to check for not because I don't want to put a default in there. So we'll just go here. And if there's an else, it will just be blank. Okay. Suggested technician name. Okay, so we'll do that there. Okay, and I'm a little weird that did we set Nicole previously? Okay. I might do something like this. That allowed? Probably not. I want an empty record if that's the case. It does not like that. So if I hover over this, yeah, it's not going to go for that. So I am a little, okay. If I open this up, it actually is giving me Nicole. And is she really the suggested technician here? It is. Okay. I don't remember doing that, which means we might have a bug in our save thing here. Okay, suggested tech. Boom. If this is not blank, then we're going to set this up. We got suggested tech. Okay. Redo what tech is assigned here. Okay, so it went to the users table. Okay, this was the else. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do, locus suggested tech. Okay, I'm going to do an if statement here. If okay, as long as it's not blank, then we'll provide the suggested tech ID. I'm going to do the same thing here. I need the whole if statement though. Come that out, paste that. And this will be the display name. Now, what is it not liking here? I have my comma there. I'm watching the comments just in case you guys see the problem, and I'm not here. Okay, so if not, then provide the display name. I just want to make sure this is actually the line that's causing us the problem. So I'll comment it out and see if the error goes away, and it does. Okay. So also, if we provide an empty string, it's going to, it needs a comma at the end. So if I put a comma there, the error should go away. Okay. And this is why I always indent and format my stuff here. Because it's easier to sort of see a problem, in my opinion. It does not like display name. Do we have a suggested tech? Let's see. Oh, it's a user record. Okay. And their name is going to be, well, let's go over to users. Should be just title. Okay, so let's do that. Title. Okay, now I'm going to be consistent here and do all this type of stuff. All right. All right. So I think it's going to work. Now the question is, if they created the record and they selected somebody, they go in and then take that person out. We need to be able to sort of blank that out. Okay. All right. I'm going to make sure I've got all this stuff here. And when you do patch statements, a lot of times exact same thing that you have in the other one here. So we have these two guys. We're going to paste. And I feel that I should put something in here just in case they set a suggested tech niche the first time and they change it this time around. It's expecting numeric value. So I'm going to say 0. Okay. And then for this will be a blank string. I think we should be good at that point. Okay. So now I'm going to hit Control S. Okay. Let's take Nicole out. I'm going to save. I need some design help. Oh my goodness. Why did it put him in there? That was weird. Oh, he's the first person in there. Wow, that was weird. Okay, so let's go back in here. And it was an empty string, so it probably grabbed the first record. It still did a search. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up. I should probably also do, if it's not blank, and self dot search. Is there like, yeah, search text. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to like use my brain here. Because if there's nothing in there in the search text, you know what I need to check here is suggested definition ID. And that is greater than 0. That should do it. Yay, it's blank. Okay, good. All right, so let's go look at this. This is actually sort of a real ticket because Gerald had me assign a ticket to Nicole saying, "Hey, what does she think about this about the design of our screen?" Right? If you guys remember that. Okay, I am looking for a suggested tech. Okay, so we have a 0 and we have an empty string there. Okay. Now, it doesn't look like our suggested technician name is being filled out. Now, we do have ones here. Okay, so are we doing this right? All right, so let's go back into a new record here. Okay, that's going to be a bug that we'll probably have to solve during our Zoom call. Okay, but what I wanted to do is on the save, we actually need to look at this. Suggested tech. We go do a lookup on users. Okay. So that is actually from the users. Oh, okay. Okay, so that should be from the users table. Okay. It's just a tech dot title. Well, let me go to the users. Yeah, the title has that. Okay. Why isn't that suggested technician name coming across? You know what we could do is we could let's see if we have anything in here right now. It says Nicole Neese. You know what? We don't reinitialize these local variables. When they come back in, which is this to do. I meant to go in and redo this. Okay. And I think Rubens is the first one. Okay. So the question is, I've had some trouble. Like I want to have this as a blank value. I don't want any record in this. Okay. So there is a function called blank. I've had problems with this in the past. So what if we go in here and say blank? Sometimes I've had it cause issues. Like a variable can only hold one type of value. So if we put users in there, it's going to expect users in that context variable. If we want to blank that out, we say blank. Well, what type is blank? It's not defined. So I've had a case where Power Apps is like, That's a different type. Now you're all messed up. So let's try this out and see if it's going to give us a problem. Okay, that's fine. I can't do my work. Let's go in. I'm going to go into another record here. Okay, nothing selected. And then over here, I'm going to bring it back up. Nothing is selected. But the thing is, for this record, I do want Nicole in there. I'm going to hit save. Okay. Yeah, doing testing like this is really recommended, guys, as you go through here. Okay, so my laptop's broken. It's blank now. Now let's go back into the one that Nicole is set as. Come on, I'm clicking on it. What's going on here? Okay, it's sort of freaking out on me here. While we're waiting on that, Gerald says, great debugging. We benefit from your modeling, your methodology based on your experience. You keep calm, explore alternatives as we practice. Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate it, man. Hey guys, are you guys still here with me? Yeah, Chrome crashed on me, and I streamed through Chrome. So okay, so I'm gonna say this is probably the last thing we're trying to do inside the code is working just fine. It looked like it was working. We can verify that here in a few minutes on the Zoom call. So what I'm gonna say here, guys, is we're already at the 2-hour mark. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm gonna do a reboot, and I'm also gonna get something to drink, and I'm gonna post the Zoom meeting information in the Facebook group, and hopefully you guys will join me there. Okay. And yeah, let's see each other over there here in just a few minutes. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Guys, for some reason, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, got to hurry. Click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's going to autoplay some other video, which you probably don't want. Thanks.